Back. What's up, guys? Jason Guyman here, and tonight we got the old Scottish guy. He's actually a young Scottish guy. Man, we got old Dustin because he's older than me, so he's only about a year older than me, but he's still older than me, and so I'm the middle-aged guy here. And so tonight we're going to talk about systems and systems of how to grow and scale a business. I've had Daniel on in the past. He is the one of my great success stories. He learned from my ChristmasLights.io or online training, and he's done amazing. And so we were going to talk about what systems, and actually we're going to kind of turn the tables tonight. I was talking to Daniel earlier today, and Daniel was like, I got a bunch of questions. And I said, awesome. I said, why don't you come on live and ask me and Dustin, and we can get your questions answered. And by doing this, you guys will get a lot of great information out there. And so that is what we're going to do tonight. But before we get started, I know that I had a great weekend this weekend. I actually wasn't traveling. I was home. And so this weekend I will be in Indianapolis. Hope to get to see a bunch of you in Indianapolis for the in-person training. If you want to go check it out, ChristmasLights.io/IPT, and that way you can. And if you can't make that one, you always got we'll be in Charlotte, so go check out those days. We might be putting another class on because we got a lot of people asking for training and learning how to do Christmas lights. And after you hear this awesome story of Daniel tonight, you will definitely probably want to do that. And so with that, let's get started here. I'll kind of go around the room here for people that don't know. But Dustin, just give us a 2 seconds of who you are, where you're from, and that good stuff.
Yes, so Dustin from Lights at Wholesale. We supply all of Jason's lights. So if you buy from Christmas.io, we are the supplier. We're one of the largest suppliers in the United States. Really good customer service. We have free shipping. And the other thing is, we hire people, including myself, that have a lot of experience with Christmas lights. So we can help you grow your business. You can call us up and we can help mastermind different things that you're dealing with at the time. But yeah, a little bit about me. I started a Christmas light company almost 20 years ago. Didn't know what I was doing. Paid for a guy to teach me. He had a business and I paid him like $28,000. And he didn't teach me very well, but I bought 18 accounts that sucked. But I actually learned, how you learn, you either learn easy or you learn the hard way. And I learned the hard way. And so, I still learn. So from there, I learned that I really like this business because there was a lot more money involved than window cleaning, which I still do, but a really good business. We grew it to our Christmas light business to one of the biggest companies in Utah. We do several thousand jobs, lots of commercial properties, homeowners, home properties. And we started distributing after we were getting frustrated with a lot of the product out on the market at the time. They were having problems. I was going to my current vendors and trying to get them to fix some of the problems. They didn't know how to do it because they didn't install themselves. So I just took it on my task because we hated going out for service calls. And if you ever come out here, we're always testing, making sure we have the best product. So you guys don't have to go back for callbacks. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm excited to hear from Dan too. I just met him today on Facebook Messenger and I love his accent.
All right, Daniel. So again, Daniel, let's hear your story. Tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you got started, because I know this is where a lot of people think where they start, and they don't know if they can actually start and grow a business or not. And so let's start there. Again, if you guys got questions, put them in the comments. I will star them so that way I can make sure that I come back to them. I see Bobby's done got a great question, which I know we're probably going to hit on. So that is something that we need that I want to do. So go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, so first and foremost, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the invite, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm ready to learn from you both. And yeah, so basically, I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland. I moved here in 2010. I moved here to play college soccer. I was a NCAA Division I college soccer player. I played at UMBC, a small school in Baltimore, and I transferred to UC Santa Barbara in California. Played there. signed a pro contract in North Carolina when I finished college. Decided real quick that, I was never going to make enough money to live a good life in soccer. And it'd never really been about that for me, but, I'd never got to that point. And once I realized I was never going to get to the highest level in soccer or football, I decided to kind of steer off, and I went into the coaching side of things. And that's kind of where, I've learned, I've kind of grown, and I've developed as a person, and I've developed as a coach. And I found myself last year at a point where I was never going to build wealth in soccer. I enjoy it. I've loved it. But I'd built up a good skill set, and I never really realized this until I got into this business. This is my first service business, Christmas Lights. I'd never really realized that how much of a skill set I'd built in coaching, whether it was coaching the kids, working with the parents, communication, holding meetings. Even now it's things like, I was building a business. I was running trips to the UK. I went on a trip to the UK. A lot of things I've now transferred into business. And I'd never ran a business. Like, I've ran a soccer business, but I've never run a service business. And I've realized I learned a lot through my journey in soccer. My father always told me, he's like, I'd love to see you take this skill set, because he realized I had a good skill set and I had quite a decent brain on me. He's like, you need to go and take this on other things. And I'm really glad that I'm at a point now where I've made him proud, and I was the first son to kind of break away from the soccer world. Actually, no, I wasn't. My brother beat me to it, but my brother's now, he ran a solar business, and I'm doing Christmas lights. He's just gone to Christmas lights, so we're slowly breaking away, because my father, all he's ever known was soccer. He was a Hall of Fame pro from the UK, from Scotland. My grandfather owned 2 professional soccer clubs in Scotland. So it's all we've ever known. And it's nice to kind of venture out and try something new. So,
all righty. Well, never knew that I could have so much impact. I seen someone that just posted on here. He was actually over in Israel. I knew who he was, and he started his pressure washing business and did $6,000 his first week, and $5,000 for this next week. So that is pretty awesome. And I do remember you, and that is pretty awesome. All right. So I've actually shared this out in a bunch of groups. So if you're from there, that is awesome. So let's get this thing started. Daniel, since you kind of asked, you had some questions. I've got some questions that I will start along the way, but I'd like for you to kind of throw your questions first, and then that way we can kind of see where we can go from there.
Yeah, so I have questions on systems, right? So obviously the backstory is last year was my first year in Christmas Lights. I was able to accomplish what I did, just shy of $180,000, but I accomplished that on my own. Well, not on my own, with one more guy, right? So it was me on the ground and a roofer, and we were able to get to that point. Everything's changed. I'm now having to scale, and I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what's coming, right? I really don't. I'm kind of a little bit anxious. That's why I called you about this today, and I was hoping to talk to Dustin, the king of Christmas lights right there, because I'm at a point where I need to establish systems. So simple questions like, when's the best point to meet the guys to load up the trucks? And, is it the evening? I know, Jason, you'd mentioned maybe doing it in the evening, because then, in the morning, and maybe just having one guy come in. So, they're not all there and coming in at different times and things. But maybe then it's good to do it in the evening too, because then you're not having to wait on them coming in late in the morning and things. Simple things like that, to the best ways to track inventory. The best way to pay the guys. I've kind of got some ideas.
All right, let's start off with one question at a time, because that's like 10.
Yeah.
Let's start off with one question at a time. So the first question is basically, what's the best way to make sure that your guys are going out? And I'm going to actually step it back a step before this, because I want to hit on a little bit of hiring. And I know where his goal is, Daniel's goal is, and his goal is probably to be running 2 to 3 crews without him on the crew. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's the hope.
And so running 2 to 3 crews, and this is something that finding good employees, right? And so what I'm going to say on that one is, and I know Dan's in here, and he's in on our Monday night calls, and he's been on the same thing, Dan and Lindy, is, if you need to get 6 people for crew, you probably need to hire 10 because the likelihood of you getting down to 6 is pretty good. And even if you only start with 6, you're going to be a lot less. And I know when we were out at the last training, when I was out there, Bob, I can't remember his last name, but Bob was out there. Bob Matthews, and he's like, I need 20 people, and we're going to hire 35 so we can get 20 by the end of the season doing well. And so I'll tell you my story on employees, right? We had to hire a lot through Christmas lights. We usually had to bump up. And so you're trying to find ways to get people to join. And so, don't lie on the paper when you're putting the paper out there. Hey, you're going to work. You got to like working outside, because if you don't like working outside, they're probably not going to work for you. They gotta like to be able to climb ladders, and they're going to lie on that one, right? So you got to try them and see if they're going to climb ladders, because there's a lot of people be like, I can climb ladders, until you get them on a ladder, and then they're going to be shaking like a leaf, right? And so those are things that you got to figure out to be able to be able to hire the right people and make sure that you're able to do that. And so that's my thoughts on it. We hired lots of people during Christmas lights. One time we did I never forget, we did the rent-a-kids, basically, where you hire the rental people and you do that. And they were showing up, and my lead guy's like, you've got to fire these guys. I'm like, what are they doing? He's like, he showed me the picture of the guy looking in the window being like, man, look at this cool TV in this house. I'm like, all right, I guess you're right. So we've done a lot of different things, and you meet a lot of different characters when you start hiring people. So Dustin, I'd like to hear on your part about hiring people.
Yeah, I think hiring is one of the best decisions you can make, and worst in a way. And what I mean by that, it can end up being your best decision or your worst. And so you obviously want to make sure you hire the right people. And because it's your best or worst, it's probably your most important thing that you will do. One thing that when I first started, I wasn't the best at hiring employees. I based them on who I liked, and that's not necessarily bad, but it should only be like 10%, because if I felt good with them, I felt like, hey, they're going to be awesome, we hired them. And yeah, you talk to me, hey, can you hang Christmas light, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, for sure. And so they end up getting out there, and they don't know what they're doing. They're not really, they're not the right people. It's like soccer, right? It's like, So guess what? I'm glad that you're in sports. I love sports. Okay. So you're going to do well at this. All you want to look at, Dan, I don't know if you Dan or Daniel, do you go by, which one do you go for?
Whatever you'd prefer. Daniel, yeah.
Cool. You like it, huh? Yeah. So what I look at myself is I'm only the coach. Okay. So when you're a coach on the soccer team or whatever, your whole position and your whole goal as the coach is to get the right players for the right position, right? Yep. And so it took me a few years to finally learn that. I'm like, man, why don't I need to get the right people, not based on who I like and all that. So what I discovered, and Jason talked a little bit about it, I said, okay, we're going to do on the job trainings. And what I would do is I have another home that's pretty tall and steep. And I do all my trainings there still to this day. We go out, we set up the ladder, and you can instantly tell who's scared and who's not, who's going to be a guy that's like built to hang lights. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. That was the first thing that I figured out that was a game changer, because everybody else kind of was basing on the questions of like, hey, you have to be able to be outside, you have to hang lights, and you have to be on ladders. And people are like, oh yeah, totally fine. Well, probably 3 out of 4 people are scared to death on ladders, and they might not even know about it. So they get up there and they're like, and you can feel that they're really uncomfortable. And then you find these rock stars that are faster than you that just love it up there. And they're all over the roofs, and they're just because they have low center of gravity, they just naturally know how to walk on a roof. It's like playing soccer, right? You just find these people that were born to play soccer, and they work hard at it, and they get better and better. So very important. So again, for me, it was the best decision I made. Again, I hear people, worst decision, hire employees, because you end up having a lot of problems, liability issues and all that. But for me, it's been the best decision that I've made when I hired the right people.
Yeah, that's great advice, because I realized last year, being year one, I was kind of scrambling for guys. One guy let me down, and I ended up in a pinch. And I was bringing people in to even help as maybe our third and fourth guy, whichever never really ended up happening. But these guys would come in, and like you've just said, like they would come in, and I've asked when I've posted the ads for these jobs that you have professional experience hanging Christmas lights and things like that. These guys would come in, and then they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I hung a few strands on a
Yeah.
tree at a restaurant," and I'm like, "That's not what we're looking for, man." And then you see them try to go up the ladder, and they're scared, and I'm like, "Dang it!" So
Yeah.
that's actually something I've already implemented. Is we did a training day a couple of weeks ago on my own home, and
Perfect.
it worked really well. And you're able to then see people on the ladder, make sure they're comfortable and things. So that was definitely something. Knowing that going into year two, that's definitely helped.
Perfect. Good job on that. That's huge.
Yeah.
I think the next thing, once you get good employees, a lot of people can't keep them, and that's the next stage in it. And so that's where you have to progress with them and stuff like that. And we can get into that if that's another question that you have, but we'll just keep going along.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Definitely,
So the question that he actually asked is basically, how do you set up for the next day or get these guys off? And I'll tell you what, I was pretty much the one that set them up for the next day. And if they got in, is because we had everybody coming in and out of our shop, because that was the easiest way for us to be able to get everybody through. And so we would try to get them in their vans and filled the night before. Now, that didn't always happen, because a lot of times they stay out till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night trying to get these jobs done. And so that only worked when they got back at 4 or 5 o'clock and they wasn't dead tired. And so a lot of times it was the next morning. And so and this is, did I lose Daniel? We did. And so I'll just keep talking while he gets back on here. And so as you get people, and as you see, we actually have this conversation because Dustin did it one way, and another guy talked about how they did it another way at his class. And so, they all come in and talk and that, and chit chat chads, as Dustin calls them. And you chit chat chat, and it takes an hour for everybody to get out, because they're all trying to get the same plugs. They're all trying to get enough clips. They're all trying to do the same thing while they're all still talking. And so that does take time when you're trying to get these people out. And so with that, it is one of those things that it is a learning curve. And some of it might be your culture to sit around and talk for an hour and let them sit and talk. Or you might be Dustin and do what Dustin does, and I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah. One thing I did, and again, I'm about efficiency. Every business I run it efficient, and I want our employees to make the most money that they can as well. Because when it comes down to it, the employees are going to feel like they worked hard no matter what. If they're at the shop messing around, it still feels like a lot of work, right? So when their paychecks are bigger, they're going to be more excited. So yeah, I get my guys. So how I kind of do it is I schedule each crew at a different time, and around my property, I have different places. So again, as you doing it, so they're not talking. So I have one place at 7 o'clock, one 7:15, 7:30, 7:45, 8 way over here for chit chat Chad. And then also we do have the evening crew, like you said. We do have people that come opposite in the evening as well. So we don't have a lot of traffic, because again, the first few years, I'm just like, man, it's taking them 2-3 hours before they get out to even work. And then, they work 8 hours, but they include the 3 hours of talking, and then they're going home. So again, that's kind of how we did it, and that just blew it up. But again, like Casey, who was on our call a few months or weeks ago, he does a little bit different. So his culture is they have breakfast and all that, and the guys are ready to, after breakfast, ready to hit the road. So you can make it work either way. I don't know what's more your personality. It kind of depends on who you are and what you see would be the best for your business. Daniel?
Yeah, that's great advice. Can you guys hear me? Because it's going slow on my end.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds great. So the mornings, yeah, that sounds like it's probably going to make more sense for us, just so the guys can get home and see their families too, right? And so when you're bringing them in, Dustin, how are you? Are they getting their own stuff, or do you have it all pre-made, ready to go for them, like the crates and things like that? And then for the new installs, do you already have a bunch of material on the truck for new installs? And then do you track it by the bulb and by the clip so that they check something off on their end on a Google sheet or something, so that you can load them up with material?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we do, and I learned this after a couple years as well, I end up hiring a full-time person because again, you guys, it's hard to find rock star people that are putting up lights. It's just a hard job to find. So if you find a good installer, what are you paying them to do? Are you paying them to get stuff, or you want to pay them to be putting up lights? So they're going to make a lot more money putting up lights than they are to get their stuff. And I always remind my guys, I said, I want you guys to be playing again, game day. I want you guys to be playing and not just around here getting equipment ready and stuff like this. So again, you kind of do the coach thing. I get someone that's really efficient, because a lot of these guys aren't efficient getting their stuff. Again, they get tempted and they talk. And the longer you get there, you get one person, two person out there saying, oh, have you heard about Johnny's new girlfriend? Right? Oh yeah. And blah, blah, blah. So I have a full-time person that just is very efficient. And your question with inventory, that full-time person's in charge of the inventory, so they know. And for us, it's her name's Anna, and Anna gets everything ready for the guys. So she sees the new job, she's the one in charge of the inventory. So she checks it out of our inventory. The guys, we don't want the guys coming to grab their stuff, because again, they could grab extra stuff. We've had a few people stealing stuff, believe it or not, that happens. I've had one guy doing his own business, stealing the stuff. This was many years ago, but and then until I found out that he was bidding against me on one job, I'm like, what's going on?
Oh my days!
And so he was using our bulbs and everything to bid, and he got caught because we did a bid. And anyways, so I realized we can't, you have to trust but verify. And so I just got one person in charge. Nobody else checks anything else. And she gets everything ready. So she knows if it's a new job, we have it already made for the guys, the best clips, everything on. They know exactly, because we already bid. We know how many feet it is. And they'll throw a little bit extra for the person. So there's no waste and anything. So everything's ready to go. And again, it's about being efficient. It's these small things that your guys, just from getting out earlier, you're going to be doing twice as many jobs if you just do that. It's as simple as that.
So I want to talk a little bit about, for the people online, because Dustin said this happened to him a long time ago, about people stealing and starting a business on their own. Daniel, do you have a story of just year one of this happening to you?
Unfortunately, I do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. My first guy I hired, he had past experience with another Christmas light installer in my area who's doing really well. Got a lot of respect for them. And he had left that business to try and start his own thing. I don't think it panned out well for him. And he was sincere about that, and he was transparent. He says, look, I tried my own thing, didn't work out. I'm done with that. And so he came to me. I was all happy. He was, I was very lenient with him, because last year I was desperate. Like I'm not comfortable. I'll go on the roof, but I'm not comfortable, and I certainly wasn't going to be able to do all the jobs on my own. If I need to, I'll go up there, but it was only going to work if I found another guy that was good for the roof. So this guy was good, but he was letting me down a lot. There was days he just was showing up late. He had some issues, like stuff going on in his personal life, and I was very lenient with him. I was paying him $45 an hour. I was paying him well. I was fair. And then we were on a shopping center on a Saturday. I think it was after Thanksgiving. Yeah, it was after Thanksgiving. I think it was a Thursday. So we're on the Saturday. We're on a shopping center. We just finished the shopping center. It took us all day. And so we're getting the stuff in the truck. And he said to me, he says, hey, Daniel, and we had another shopping center on the Sunday. And he says, and he knew those were big jobs for me. Like I'd told him already, like, these are big jobs. It's my first year. This is a big opportunity. We can't mess this up. And so he says, hey, Daniel, I just need to let you know I won't be here tomorrow. And I'm like, what? And he says, yeah, he says, I've got my own jobs lined up. And I had told him, just being fair, because he'd kind of made it out to me like, I've got a few jobs for friends and family. And I says, that's absolutely fine. Like, I'll let you do that. No problem. Just give me some notice. That's fine. Anyway, he told me, he's like, yeah, I won't be back till Tuesday. I've got 6 jobs. And I says, dude, I says, this wasn't the agreement, you know? Like, you've screwed me. Like, what am I going to do? Like, and so, yeah, I was like, and he's like, right enough. He turned his phone off. He wasn't available till the Tuesday. I ended up not bringing him back. Like, that was the final straw for me. And I called Jason that night, and I was like, Jason, I'm screwed here. Like, what am I going to do? And he's like, I was freaking out. And he's like, yeah, you need to get active. You need to put ads out there. And something, like, I put an ad out that night, and dude, I found this guy. He's a roofer. He's been doing roofing for 30 years. He'd never done Christmas lights. And I ended up doing the rest of the season with him. He's phenomenal. His name's Juan. I paid him $50 an hour, but it was worth every single penny, you know. Reliable, always there. Actually, he was there early every day, and you know, but I treated him really well. But even Juan got a taste of this. Was the problem. I was the only guy, so it was just me taking the calls and doing the ads, and I was able to achieve what I achieved. I really stopped pushing the marketing mid-October because we just started picking up so much jobs, and I was just trying to keep up with the jobs and the inventory and all that stuff. I wasn't getting home till 11, 12 at night, going out at like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and he was starting to pick up on how I was doing the sales, how I was talking to customers, the processes. And I think, you know, I'm bringing him back this year, but he mentioned to me, he's like, Daniel, I've thought about doing this myself. I saw how you do it. And I'm like, Juan, I've been through this once, man. Like, I'm a nice guy. You know, I understand you want to make money. I've paid you fair since day one. You know, I'd love to see, like, if it was a matter of I wasn't paying you well, then understood. And he's like, well, I just need to be making $500 a day. I'm like, Juan, I don't know if I can do that for you, buddy. Like, I'm paying you 50 an hour, but I don't know if I can do 500 a day for you. We'd have to work long days. And he's like, yeah, I want to be done by 5. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. So I don't know. It was by chance. I was watching the YouTube video the other week, Dustin, and you had mentioned just a snippet, but you mentioned paying by the bulb. And, you know, I've spoke to Juan about that, and I think that's going to be the only way where I can get him to what he wants to get to. And I'd love to keep him on crew, but, you know, he's a roofer, and so he owns a roofing business, so he does make good money in that. And that's what I'm finding hard, is try to keep everyone happy, because a lot of the guys I'm bringing in are roofers now. And I know they make good money, and I'm trying to be fair, but I also know their money's not consistent. They're not getting these jobs every day. And there's a reason he came to me for work, right? So, but yeah, it's definitely for me, the most stressful part is the recruitment part, keeping guys, you know, in check.
So what's your next question? Sorry to get you down that rant, but I knew that's a good story of everybody getting to deal with employees and going working against you. So.
Well, and I just wanted to say all that because, you know, people, obviously, Jason, you've mentioned how well I did, and I don't like talking about that, like all what I did, and I don't want everyone to sound like it's easy. I see these things now, and it's like make $100,000 in 6 weeks, like these ads and stuff on Facebook, and I'm like, if only people knew how much stress I went. It was the hardest but most gratifying 2 months of my life, and that's me. That's harder than anything I've ever done in sports, that 2 months. And, you know, it was definitely worth it in the end. But I don't want people thinking like it's easy, because honestly, it was brutal.
And I want to even say something else on that, too, of, you know, you said you got up at 6 and you worked till 11. And that's actually a lie, because there was times that I was in different places and you're calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning, that it's 2 o'clock your time. And so you literally worked from 6 o'clock in the morning till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just didn't want to sound extreme, but yeah.
You know, and you brought up, I want to mention something for Daniel. I love you already. I love your accent. I already told you that, but I could listen to you all day. I should be paying you. I just love that. I really do. But I feel for you, because we all go through that as business owners. And this is a key, okay? To be able to be very successful, you have to have employees to be able to stay long-term. If you are constantly, because it's mentally, emotionally tiring every year, you'll see it just brings you down slower. It's just mentally, emotionally. are you going to have the right people? Then you have to train them again. You have to do all these extra things. So I realized pretty early that I did not want to keep hiring employees. Now I have it down, Daniel, that most of my employees have been here for 10, probably the average is 15, 12, well, probably about 12 years now. So
Wow.
I've been on the taken industry where people go through employees, they maybe last 1 to 3 seasons, then they're out of here. And that's again how we've been able to, be able to get these multi-million-dollar businesses, is because if you don't have the employees that will stay long term, you will not be able to be successful. So to answer your question, you have to do, and again, that's why I'm a huge into piece rate. You have to do it like, what would it take for you if you were them to be able to stay? Because they don't necessarily want to take the risk either. Like you said, he's there, he has these up and downs, but if the risk is really small, he sees, and he can make a lot more money, he's going to take that risk. But if you pay him enough money where you're paying on a percentage, again, like soccer, you're not getting paid if you're not doing well, right? They'll get rid of you. So it's the same thing. You kind of treat it the same thing in the sense of you find these people that are really good and that they're made to do this, and then allow them to, as they get better, they're going to make more money. And believe it or not, I have some installers that make over $1,000 a day with me, and that's their installation. So I have business owners from different businesses. They'll stop what they're doing and they come back every year. Now, not too many business owners, but most of them are employees. I have people with really good jobs that quit their jobs to come over here because they were like made to be on the roof, and they're making a buttload of money without any stress. Don't have to worry about all the stuff you have to worry about, right? And they realize every year as they get faster and faster, guess what? They're going to get more and more money as they get more efficient. So you teach them, hey, you want to stay long. They talked to Johnny that's been here for 10 years and said, man, I remember that. Now Johnny's making $1,000 a day. And they're like, how's Johnny do? I want to do that. You know what I mean? And Johnny was very slow at the first, he was making maybe $150 a day, and then he went to 300. And then now he's doing that house year after year, and he has it down to science.
Yeah. That's great advice. Thanks, Dustin. Yeah. And do you, so on that, like when you're paying them, so I have it written down, and I listened to you, but I know you didn't get into too much depth about it. And if you don't want to answer this, you don't have to, but when you're paying them, right? So what I have written down for them is I'm going to give them a certain cent per bulb, and then I'm going to give them, a certain figure per strand, and then I'm going to give them a certain figure per size of wreath. And then because last year I had the intention of, when I was doing these jobs, it might have been naive of me, but I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to keep track of everything, count everything. That went out the window real quick when I was just trying to survive and swim. So I ended up not really tracking everything at install. But now that we're growing, I need to, because I need to make sure, number one, that we've got enough on the trucks, but number two, that no one's, like you'd mentioned earlier, stealing anything, God forbid. So do they submit at the end of the day their counts, and is that the way how you're able to pay them? So they submit, okay, Daniel, today I installed 3,000 C9s, 100 mini strands, 5 wreaths, and then is that how you pay them then? Or
yeah, good question. There's a few different ways to do it, and so you can pay them per bulb, which is a great way to pay, or we do a little bit of both. So I have a mixture of that. So I have a couple guys that are on salary as well, the main guys, okay? So they make a percentage. Again, they make a percentage of all the, again, I kind of do it so it's like their own business too, without all the stress, that we deal with. So you get these really top people that are really good at managing, really good at motivating, that you don't have to deal with it. Again, you're looking long term, okay? So I have people on a salary, okay, that year-round work, and they get a percentage of everybody that they train. Okay, so what are they going to do? They're going to want to make sure that they are trained really well, because why? They're making a percentage of everybody that they have installed. They're going to make a residual income. See how cool this is? You get this stuff going, and people are not going to want to leave. See, this is the difference that, as far as I know, I'm the only one that I've heard doing this way.
I've never heard that,
Yeah, so it's an amazing, you do it the same way that you would, because everybody that gets a taste of residual income, they don't want to go back. They're like, man, I want to work harder. I want to train these guys even better. I want to get this guy, Johnny, to be doing a lot more homes. So now he's the one telling him, the new employees calling Johnny, say, hey, Johnny, what? They're not calling you anymore. They're calling Johnny. Johnny wants to make sure that he's getting out. He doesn't want to talk to him all day because he's losing money too. See that? So you get them kind of the best of both worlds of a business owner and an employee, because most employees, they're employee for a reason. They don't want to own a business, but they want to have a potential that they can make more. So the more that they train, the bigger you get. Guess what? Now they train 10 people, and now they're making a lot more money on that. So that's another way that we do it.
That's genius, man.
Cool.
That is genius.
If anybody gets that, they're gonna keep their employees that much longer.
That's genius.
So this has been brought up here. What's the best site for you to get employees? And I want to hit the second part of this question is, just because I just found this out with Daniel the other day, to get assigned an NDA. And so originally Congress just signed a bill not too long ago where they were going to make it where you couldn't do where you couldn't make them sign a thing unless you made over a certain amount, and it had to be certain things. But it actually, and it was supposed to go into effect, what was it, like September 9th? I think it was supposed to go into effect on September 9th. But on September 8th, the judge shot it down. But when you're dealing with employees like what you're dealing with here, that's about as good as the sheet of paper it is on, because it's probably not going to hold up, especially where you're in Virginia and it's kind of liberal. I know it's kind of red, but you're more liberal. It's probably not going to hold up very well. But the first part of the question is, and this is a good question for you, Daniel, because you did hire a couple people. What's been the best places for you to get employees?
Yeah, so I didn't really have too much luck with Indeed. I think the reason for that is most of your guys that are roofers and that, they're not going on Indeed. I think the other problem was when I was posting on Craigslist, I was finding the wrong kind of guy. Like, some of the people that were showing up from Craigslist were like interesting. Let's just say that, right? Like, there was a couple I couldn't even, honestly, it'd been like 1 or 2 hours. I'm like, look, dude, you're going to have to leave. Like, I've got my reputation at stake here. Like, you know, some of the things you'd mentioned earlier about peeking through the windows and that, I'm like, I just can't. So, yeah, but Indeed, I think, found me one. I think, yeah, Indeed. But honestly, like, y'all would be better answering it than me. So I'll leave it to y'all to answer that.
I've tried them all, and there ain't no good place. Honestly, if you can find if you go to church and you got kids in the youth group or coming out of the youth group, usually those are some good kids, or you will know who the farm boys are or the people that are good workers in that youth group. It's probably not the smart kids. It's probably the ones that you're like, are you sure he's got any brains up there? Because he will be a great worker. Usually, I'm not saying nothing bad about that. I'm just saying that's one spot. Another thing is always recruiting, right? You always want to be looking for that great employee where, you know, if you go see somebody at the grocery store, if he's at Chick-fil-A and working, got a great attitude, because a lot of it's the attitude, you know. We want to think we're going to hire roofers, but most times there's not too many times we hire roofers, because if they have a great attitude, you can hire a roofer. Most of those do not have great attitudes. And if they don't have great attitudes, it's not going to go well for you at all. And so that is definitely something that you got to look at. And F-Bomb said Craigslist is another name for crackheads for employees applications.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but that's exactly what I was trying to say. I forgot. I've had a lot of success this year with just going out there and doing it. So I'll give you an example. I've picked up 4 guys from going to Wawa in the morning. I go to Wawa every morning, and I've made a point now. If I see a truck with ladders on it, I'm going over there. So I just go over. I say, hey, my name's Daniel. I own a Christmas light installation business. I understand you probably have, you know, lower work in the winter period. You know, I can give you work. We're 3-4 months of the year. Would you like that? And then more often than not, they say yes. And that's how I've been able to recruit this year. And, you know, I'm hoping for good things. But I'd love to hear what Dustin's got to say.
No, I love that. That's actually a really good idea. And, you know, there was a few years ago, I think it was before you came, when it was COVID hit, and it was very hard to find. We actually needed a few more employees because our business kept growing, obviously. And I was tempted to do the same thing that you did. Just go around to construction sites and get anybody who's on ladders and roofs, you know. One of the things that Jason said that's very true, though, if you come to our place, and he's mentioned a few times, my employees are so positive. They're so happy. They love their work. So I'm huge about the positivity because you have people that bring each other up or bring each other down. And so huge, even if they're a rock star person and they have the worst attitude, I don't hire them because they're going to bring everybody. You've heard the bad apple, right? It really is true. You get that bad apple and everybody's motivation goes down. They just pull down because if you're looking at the negativity all day, I get excited. I'm like, hey guys, it's game day. Let's go make some money, you know? And it's Christmas. I always call it Christmas cash. Let's go make some Christmas cash today. So they love it. They love hearing Christmas cash. Let's make some extra. Let's have some fun and make some Christmas cash. And so versus, you know, Debbie Downer. But to answer your question on how to hire, so we have been very successful a few years ago, well, probably 8-10 years ago, when we were hiring quite a bit at the job opportunities that you find people that do the Alaska thing, the summer job thing in Alaska. So these are people that are outdoors. A lot of them are rock climbers. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
They're out there. They love it. They love being on roofs, heights and stuff that is normally okay with them. And so we hired those people at the time because we didn't have year-round work. And I don't know if you have year-round work yet. So, you know, 8-10 years ago, we didn't quite have year-round work for all of our employees. And so we would hire on these job sites and we picked them up. And then what you have to do, though, usually what they just expected, you have to provide housing for them. Because that's how it is. And it's not a really big deal. Housing is not very expensive. Look at everything. They really come out because they want something different. So we got people that would go do the Alaska thing in the summer, and then they'd come and hang Christmas lights, and then they'd go back, do the Alaska thing, and come back again. And so it worked out really good. So there's like cool jobs. There's a lot of different sites, but you can find those people that are looking for just temporary, you know, the perfect timing, which is Christmas lights for them.
Yeah. So there's like, so you go after them via a site then, and then like, is there a specific way to go and get them?
So no, so they fly out here. You know, they're part of the United States. If that's your question. So yeah, I would just interview them. And back then we didn't have Zoom and all that. Again, we haven't had a hire for. It sounds crazy, but for lights, we don't ever hire actually anymore. We always just get referrals because our guys love their job so much. And their positivity. They have friends and like, wow, you're making that much money hanging Christmas lights. And then they're like, these guys are the best. They do all this stuff for us. They make us, you know, they allow us to have residual income, all this other stuff. And they're like, man, my boss doesn't do that. There sounds like a better opportunity. So now believe it or not, it's all by referral. Like we get tons of, again, we're getting people and by referral, and you'll get there too. But when we used to do the hiring, you know, finding that those were really excellent things. So how we did it, though, it sounds crazy, but I would have them take a picture. Okay, this sounds crazy because this was back before Zoom and all that. It sounds crazy, but we'd make sure if they were physically fit, first of all, because I did hire one time my first year. He just took a picture of his face. I'm not kidding you. And he came by, and I think he was 10 years older now than in the picture. And I'm not kidding you. He was a big guy. And he came by, and it just, it didn't work out very well. So yeah, we looked at that. We looked at their experience, but also what I would tell people, okay, I would say, hey, we're serious about this because I still was huge on training on one of my homes that's really tall and steep. And so we said, we will get you up there. And I took a picture of the house and I would send it to them. Look at the ladder. And that right there from them just looking, they're like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that. Because I said, if you are not the candidate, you know, it's not going to work out. You know, I let them know up front. So that way, because we have had people come out and they're like, oh yeah, it's not for me, you know, but most of the time we figured out it worked out good that way. And so that's kind of how we did it.
That's hilarious.
All right. So what's some more, I know we've been on this question, but what are some more questions? I know you had some that you want to ask, see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I didn't make a list, but I have a bunch of questions. I really appreciate this because, as Jason knows, I just ask so many questions. I think it's the best way to learn, right? Like, and I enjoy being part of the group and stuff because, you see other people ask questions. It reminds you, oh, I forgot to ask that one. But I think it's the best way to learn. I think the minute I stop asking questions, the day I'll be worried.
Here's a great question too that I'm gonna. This one here is brought up by someone here. Um, Shoot, maybe if I can find it again. It was basically where did I go at, Jason?
Oh, I have a question.
Go for it.
Okay, so going back to kind of that year-round model, Dustin, I've got a few, actually not a few, I've got more than a few permanent lighting jobs lined up for the new year. The reason I put them out to the new year is there's a few reasons actually. I want to master that first. I've never installed permanent lights myself. I want to be able to
You're
master
already
that
on the
before I
right
go into
direction. Perfect answer right there so far. Good job.
yeah. And so I want to do that, but also I'm going to look into your product. I'm going to use Invisilights. I've heard great things. Maybe I need to go to a training. You host trainings, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And then do you reckon, with where I'm at with Christmas lights, do you reckon I could branch out and make it a year-round model and sell permanent lights residentially the other, let's say, half a year, from January to, let's say, I don't know, June?
Absolutely, yes. And that's what we're doing here. So, what you'll want to do right now, okay, this is kind of and you may or may not already know this, but we are already, setting up a lot of permalite jobs. Once we're so busy, though, because we're already extremely busy, we've already done over 1,000 jobs for Christmas lights, believe it or not. So, we've already done it. We start last week of August, but we've already done 1,000. So, we're really busy. We're doing permanent light jobs, but we're almost at that point that we cannot do permanent light jobs anymore because they just take too long. So what we're doing is we're setting them up for the springtime. So we're getting the peak pricing.
Yeah.
One thing that I don't know if Jason knows about this or yet, but I've developed 9 different clips that are all patent pending. They're incredible clips for permanent lights.
Wow.
They're for every situation out there. And it has that best plastic, the best clip plastic. So again, they're not going to break and all that like that. So they're going to be coming out in the next 2 weeks. Maybe in 2 weeks, we'll show them, Jason. We'll have a live with all these products. So you guys will be able to hang the Christmas lights if you choose to do it. So what we're doing, hanging the Christmas lights, the permanent lights, right now at peak pricing where you can get a lot more money. And then going back in January, February, March, April, May, June, and get them all set up that way. And then once you're doing it, guess what? As you know, your brother I talked to today, he's a door knocker. Go knock the doors. It works very well. Permanent lights. You're doing the Johnsons. You have one of the employees. You leave a sign. You have one of the employees. Hey, we're doing these cool lights over at the Johnson's house, and you're going to pick up a lot of jobs now from your, however many jobs you get during the season when everybody wants this stuff, and then they see what's going on in the off season, and you're going to keep your guys busy that way.
That's awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's good advice.
And Lindy says you need to come to Charlotte, is what she said. So,
have you met Lindy yet, Daniel?
She's on the call. She's a great lady.
She's incredible. You have to meet Lindy. Lucky Lindy.
Yeah.
She will. She is incredible, and she's doing a lot of things that no one else is doing too. So she's kind of like me. We do things different than everybody. I don't ever follow the crowd. I always listen, but I always do a little bit different. I always like to be one step ahead of my competition. Yeah. But she's a lot like that. So it would be great to have you go to Charlotte and learn too from her and Dan. Yeah. Jason, I think, is going to be there too, and Jason.
And so if you want to go to training in Charlotte, you need to sign up at christmaslights.io/IPT because that's where you get to deal with Lindy. I mean, you get to have the experience of being with Lindy down there. So she'll be ready to kill me.
Yeah, I feel confident in that, actually, the permanent lights, because if I'm able to sell the temporary lights at that, like I was selling jobs in like February, March, commercial properties, then I can sell permanent lights because they're going up right there and then, right? I'm not, it's a hard sell sometimes when you're having to tell them, okay, we'll see you in 4 months. But if you can be putting those permanent lights up next day, then it's going to be a lot easier to sell for sure.
Yeah, so you put them up. So the whole point is you put them up, and then they can have the cool lights and let them know that, hey, this is just temporary. Because again, like last year, permanent light companies are so booked too. They become booked like they can't do it until January-ish. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It gets busy. And so if you can actually put them up shortly and they can have the cool colors, they're willing to wait, knowing that, hey, I can have the cool effects, everything I want now, and then I can go back. You're going to go back and have them, installed professionally and make it part of the home. And the other thing I like about that too is you're going to be able to get peak pricing. You're going to, because it's a demand. No, everybody's be so booked doing permanent lights. The price goes up higher, so you're going to be able to get the peak pricing, and then you can go back when it's better weather, when your guys aren't, done take. We actually start after we get done taking down lights. So we actually start like in March, believe it, like first week of March is when we start doing permanent lights. When we start back each year, and so it works out really good.
Thank you. Yep.
So one of the questions was asked in here. It's up at I don't know if I'll be able to find it here, but it's a great question too about, and I know that you've done quite a bit of this, Daniel, and that's why I want to hit on this one here is about getting commercial work. How should I go about contacting, emailing, and is it too late? But I want to hit on something that you've been doing a while. And as Daniel said, this is not an easy thing, right? People, I mean, sometimes it is easy, but it's not easy. It takes hard work. And so you've done quite a bit of commercial. And so just talk a little bit about that side of it, Daniel, because that's something that I want to kind of go down a rabbit trail. I do have a plan on this. So talk a little bit about what you've done, and then talk about the times that you do go for 2 or 3 weeks and not get anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So commercial I've found to be very, very interesting, right? Like, and I kind of try to set up. So what I'll do is I'm not doing it as much now because we're getting it's more residential stuff now. We're still doing commercial stuff, but what we were doing, or what I was doing was, I was calling. So let's say one day of the week, I was calling churches. The reason I would do that, I would call them all on the same day, right? Because you start to get into a rhythm, not so much I don't like to use pitches, so to speak, but you get in a rhythm, you're talking to a church again, so you kind of get into the groove. And I find it better to do it that way. I would then move on the next day. I'm going to phone restaurants. The next day, I'm going to phone shopping centers. The next day, car garage dealerships. And so I would try to kind of do it that way so that I'd get a groove. And what I would do is, I'd go for volume, but I'd also like to try and find the decision makers. So and that's the frustrating thing about commercial cold calling is you're never going to find the decision maker right away. It often takes time to get to the decision maker, and the quickly you can get there, the better. But you definitely have to sweet talk the person picking up the phone. And then you want to try, you really do want to try and avoid conversations about money, especially early on. You want to try and understand their why. Why would it benefit, them? What do they currently have on the building? Do they have anything on the building? And you want to try and get to know them on a personal level. You want them to like you, because a lot of sales, people want to buy things from people they like. And so what I've found is, I'm really good at, small talk and getting to know people, and I enjoy that part of it. And I genuinely have a true passion for what I'm doing. I think as a Christmas light installer, I have a responsibility to keep the magic of Christmas alive for future generations, because I'm a Christian and I strongly believe that Christianity is under attack. And I don't want to get into it too much on this call. It's not the place, but I feel a huge responsibility, to keep the magic alive for my kids, for families in the future, because I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot going on in the world now, and I think everyone needs a little light. And so the more we can bring that to businesses, the better, in my opinion. So I think people feel that passion through the phone, and I think they resonate with that, and that's kind of the way I take the conversation. So,
and the other question, I know what the answer is. So before we get to that question, though, is there's days that you've called 5-10 different places and got all no's, correct?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And it goes for weeks sometimes.
Yeah.
I remember it's been about a month ago. You came on the Monday night Zoom call, and you're like, it's been 2 weeks and I've gotten all no's, and you were discouraged. But I think that day you actually got a call, and that made you all better at that point.
Yeah, I might have. Yeah, yeah, and I think it's so important. You know, I'm a very, very small fish in a big pond, and I look up to Dustin, right? Like maybe one day I'll get to, maybe not even we'll see, right? I would love to be in his shoes one day, right? I want to get there. So I want to emphasize that, like I'm still in the majorly in the learning phase, but it is possible, but it's only possible if you work extremely hard, you're receptive to information, you're coachable, and I think people have to like you, right? Like even, you know, building this relationship with y'all, like I'm friends with you now, Jason, and hopefully we can be friends too, Dustin. I feel like we already are. And I think that you have to have mentors. And, you know, if you want to achieve anything, whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, anything in life, you have to be coachable. And it's the part of the business I really enjoy because I know I don't know a lot. And every day I'm learning. And I find that really interesting and fun. I genuinely find it fun. So.
And the other part of that question that I've seen it on here too is, and I know what your answer is, but I want to hear it. What about a script? Do you have a script that you say to everybody?
No, I avoid them like the plague. Yeah, I feel like when you're reading a script, people don't feel that passion, that love for what you're doing. Like, you know, I've got things I'm going to say. You know, we provide an all-inclusive service. We take care of the design, supply of all materials, which are commercial grade, installation, maintenance, and takedown. You know, I'll do all that, but that's not going to sell it, right? Like you're trying, and people get caught up in that, and I see it in the group all the time. Like a lot of people get fixated on the price, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really have a fixed cost per bulb or cost per foot. I kind of just have a good feeling what I'm going to get out of the customer and what would work for them. And I kind of steer it that way. I'm not cheap, but you know, I don't have, like, I think a lot of people get so caught up in it and overthink the whole process. They end up selling themselves short, or they end up, you know, in a rut and they don't get the job done. I think you have to take action. So I definitely don't have a script, but I do hit certain points, you know, and that's it really. Passion.
Rabbit put, I'm a Scottish traveler and a Christian, and we're out in Australia pressure washing.
He's in Australia.
He's in Australia. Yep. Hey, mate.
G'day.
Get out the water.
I was there for 2 years. Love that.
Really?
Place. Yeah.
Did you do Christmas lights there too, Dustin?
Yeah, I started over there. No. I went with my church when I was 19 to 21. I was a missionary over there, so I love the place. I told my wife for our 20th anniversary, I'm taking her back. So we're almost married 20 years in a year and a half. So we'll get her over there.
Yeah.
Daniel's brother, Chris, put Kangaroo Skinner.
Yeah. He's loving Christmas lights, Chris. He just started.
He's killing it.
Yeah.
Jason's lives are the best. Thank you, Mr. Skinner. Hopefully you guys learned something, not just learn something, but take action. You know, honestly, Daniel wouldn't be where he is if he didn't take action. Honestly, Dustin wouldn't be where he is if he didn't take action. I wouldn't be where I would be if I didn't take action. And sometimes we don't want to take action, but you just got to take that first step. And it's scary. And the more you take the steps, the better off and the easier it gets. And so, but those first couple steps can be the hardest steps that you can take. And it's important that you just got to take action. And, you know, the reason why I wanted Daniel to say that he was calling 15 to 25 people a day for 2-3 weeks straight with all no's, because most people would have given up after one day. Well, Jason, that just doesn't work, right? And it does. And so it's about taking steps. Daniel did $179,000. His brother got a bigger goal than that his first year, and he's probably going to hit it because he's a killer. And so, but they're taking action. They're out there door knocking. They're doing the things. They're making it happen. And Dustin did the same thing, because you don't go from 18 accounts that suck to have over 2,000, 2,500 clients, right? And so as you take action, man, things just happen. You know, a lot of people will say, well, he's just lucky. You know what luck is? Taking action. Because you take enough actions, you're going to be in the lucky spot because you just took the action to be able to get to that one spot that you needed to be at. And so that is definitely something that you got to remember. And you've been asked this question a couple times, but we kind of answered it. Discuss pay performance versus different pay per methods. And basically, we've talked about this again. You can pay by the foot, you can pay by percentage of the job. You're going to get a lot more out of it versus paying per hour, because as Dustin has said in the past, when you pay per hour, they're just going to stand around and look at each other and look real pretty, and you're not going to get nothing done. And so when you pay for whatever it is, whether you do it by foot, whether you do it by percentage of the job, whatever it is things that you just got to do it. Take action, figure out what works, figure out what would make you happy at that rate. If it makes you happy at that rate, it's probably going to make them happy at that rate. If you're like, man, I couldn't live on that, then you probably shouldn't be giving your employee that, because they can't live on it either. Because the goal of it is to give. The reason why I tell you to charge $8 to $12 a foot or more is because you want to have a good life, and you want your employees to have a good life. And it doesn't mean you got to pay them a lot. Actually, I was talking to my friend that owns a car wash. He's like, there's sometimes people you pay too much and they don't want to do no work either at that point. And so there is a rate that a lot of people want to work at, and that is how you've got to get there and do it. And so do I think it's too late for a commercial? No, but it is probably late for your HOAs, that type of commercial, which is a lot of your bigger jobs. That is your HOAs, stuff like that, because they already did their budget. They already got their quotes. A lot of those are 3-year quotes. And so that is one that you're probably not going to get. Now, one thing I will tell you this year, it's not too late for commercials to go prospect for next year. Go see what companies that get their stuff done, so that way you can start knocking on their door in January, in February, March, April, and you're consistent, and you may be able to get those jobs because you already know that they spend money on it. And so that is the importance of this here.
Jason, can I ask a question? I've just popped up into my head.
Go for it.
Dustin, I've totally forgot about this, Dustin. So first and foremost, before I ask the question, I want to say that your guys, Lights at Wholesale, are phenomenal. I placed that order for 4,000 clips. I was watching the live, and I placed the order for 4,000 clips a couple of weeks ago. I actually got a call the next morning off one of your guys saying, hey Daniel, just checking in, make sure you got everything you need, and just saying, hey, we're getting ready to ship your order. I thought I've never experienced that before. Customer service was excellent. I'm now happy to say I'll be bringing all of our orders to Lights at Wholesale.
Christmaslights.io.
Christmaslights.io.
It goes so yeah, you can go through Christmas.io.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Through Jason's platform, Christmaslights.io. And then it goes to Lights at Wholesale. That's what I'm going to be doing. But I had a question for you, and it's more so for my brother than me. But let's say his goal, let's say for conversation's sake, $200,000. Let's see, right? How much? Because I had this problem last year. My goal was $50,000. I'd have been happy, and I didn't know how much to forecast for materials and inventory. How much should he be spending? If he wants to make, let's say he wants to make $100,000, how much material should be ordering?
For $100,000, like he wants to bring in $100,000.
Let's say revenue. Let's say.
Okay. So and what's his plan on what are you charging? I know you kind of charge by the job, but roughly, do you kind of know what he's going to be charged? Because I know you guys talk a lot.
Yeah. Let's say it's around $12 to $14 a foot.
Yep. So all you have to do is just $100,000 divided by 12 or $14, and then you can actually see how many feet you need for materials. And I know I was talking to him this morning. He said he's going to be doing a lot of trees because in Florida where he's at, he's going to be wrapping a lot of the trees. So he'll kind of figure out what percentage is going to go towards trees versus helms. So I like to keep it simple.
Okay.
I wanted to answer Connor. Connor, hey, what's up? Connor Buchanan. He's asked me a couple of questions, and I keep trying to remember to ask, but he asked me another one. How do I incentivize my clients to install in September? So a lot of people hate when I say this, and I don't care because, again, I like to do my own thing and let them worry about everything else. But I do give my customers an incentive to do it early. I know people are like, why do you give us? Why do you do that? Why do you do that? Well, again, we do a lot of jobs. We are very profitable, and we can afford to give an incentive for people to do it early. If we didn't do that, we would not be able to get them to get their lights done. And we actually start the last week of August. So we give them a 10% discount. But the key, what we do is we say it has to be installed. That's the key by October 21st. Okay. So the key is it's first come, first serve. So it gives them like, hey, I want to make sure I hurry and get on this list to get these done. And the other thing is we're able to schedule according to territory. So my guys can go job to job. They're not traveling all over. So if you actually do the math, we're going to probably make a lot more money than going back out because we were like, I don't want to give them a discount. So it's an incentivize to do that. And it's when you do the math, also being in Utah, we have to deal with snow. And so you hit sometimes in November and we already have a foot of snow out there. So I want to get all my jobs before the snow hits. And then November 1st is when we start doing all our new jobs. That's our growth. So we try to get all of our existing customers done before November 1st. We do have a November list that we do installs in November, but very few of them compared to what we did. And then we do all of because as you guys know, that's when you guys can charge the most is in November.
Yeah.
You're going to make a lot more money, and your advertising, everything that you've been doing is now going to be blowing up there. So, and guess what? When customers need their lights done, we're ready. We have a free schedule. Everybody else is working their butts off for existing customers in November. But we have our manpower. We could do, a lot more jobs at that time. So we're able to pick a lot of people up.
Yep.
I'm doing the same thing this year. Yeah, I'm starting next Monday and doing exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Is there a misconception with discount as we are too busy versus we need to fill our schedule? Is there a spectrum on discounts based on your business model? That's a Joey question that's pretty deep.
So Joey, can you explain further? Because I can take that question a few different places. So I want to see where you're going with that. Yeah.
Why he's doing that deep question?
We're all like looking at this. Which way do you want to go on that, Joey?
Chris put, what are your thoughts on Halloween services? A few guys in my area is offering it. Seems like materials will eat up storage. This is where that new clip that I just lost my mind, that Dustin is taking involved in where you would be able to put that for the permanent light stuff up, because then you can change the colors of it and make it Halloween, and then you can just change it over. But on a serious note, the Halloween lights are taking off more and more. I'm seeing it more and more, and I'm assuming, Dustin, you're probably seeing a lot more of the purples and greens and stuff like that too, correct?
Yes, Halloween's getting huge. It's almost, it's not even close to Christmas, but it's getting up there. It's growing faster than Christmas. It's getting bigger and bigger. And everywhere I go and I talk to a lot of people, they're saying, yeah, it's getting huge. So it's getting bigger and bigger. So the good thing about that too is you can put up lights earlier. So some people still, and I've talked to a few people, they still have the old fashioned way where they'll go and put like Halloween colors and they come back. We don't really do that as much anymore. We stick with permanent lights for those customers because they're going to want that eventually anyway. So you just let them know, hey, we can do this. We can install your lights, and now you can change whatever colors you want. So
I know we're getting late here, but I hopefully somebody learned something and will take it into action. But this is a great question. I'm going to hit on this one too. Have you ever done a free commercial property for marketing? I didn't do commercial, but I always donated at least 1, 2, 3 for any time that, a kid had cancer, a We had one time that a kid died. Like they moved up Christmas because they knew he was going to pass, and he actually passed. And so those were all the free jobs that we did, and they did get us a lot of work. I mean, and we also helped them get more stuff for that. So that's there. So guys giving free reefs or items based on trying to attract clients, then others like Dustin give discounts to stretch his season because he's packed. So is giving a discount a bad thing? I think if you're busy, you incentivize. If you're too slow, you give your service away. People in the middle may disagree.
Yeah, so I totally agree with that. Again, we give discounts to get again all of our customers incentivized because most customers do not want to have their lights installed in August. So you have to give them something like it's just there's some kind of incentivized to install in August. So again, we give the incentive so it actually, like Joey said, it will actually in the long run increase our profits because again, in November where we can charge a lot more money and we're able to pick up all the new jobs that a lot of our competitors are just still doing their existing jobs. We're ready to go. We have all our crews for the most part free, and we can pick up a lot of jobs, and we be able to we eat up the market that way.
All right. Well, what are some words of advice that you would give to a new person, Daniel?
Like I'd mentioned earlier, asking questions, being receptive to information, never having the mindset you know it all, being ambitious, having faith, finding things that motivate you, that want to get you up every day when things are tough, right? Being positive. I'm going to be honest, like, this is all new to me. I don't know anyone. I know you two guys. And I've found that, like, I'm going to be honest, I've found that there's a lot of people out there in this Christmas light installer community that they get on one another and they bash one another. I see these things on social media and I'm like, why? What's the deal? Like, there's enough room for everyone in this. There's enough room for competitors. Isn't the whole point of what we're doing to make people happy and to be positive? I just don't get that side of it. So I would just say, just be a good person. And, if there's anything ever going wrong or that, like, speak to somebody individually and figure it out. Because at the end of the day, we're all men, and women. But we don't need to be bashing one another. Stay positive. Have fun with it. At the end of the day, you're doing something that makes people happy. You're going to have tough times. Have some thick skin. And I think the thing I've not really hit on that I think is where personally I excel is being available no matter what time of day, what day of the week. I think I was doing quotes there the other day, like Sunday night, put the kids to bed. I'm doing quotes Saturday night. I think that's so important, especially when you're new. You can't afford to be slow. You've got to be on it right away. Be quick, be respectful. And a lot of the customers we're working with, they appreciate respect and manners, the way you talk to them, and I think that if you do all those things and you're coachable, you're going to go far.
Absolutely. Dustin, words of encouragement for new people
Yeah,
old people.
Yeah, I think that I love what Daniel said about positive and being positive. One of the things that I entrench with my employees is to not talk negative about your competition, but excel above. If you feel like whatever, I feel like the people that are negative towards that they're already behind their competition. So again, we're very positive here. We look at the possibilities, and there's no like Daniel said, there's no reason to thrash other people for asking dumb questions that they feel like, or hey, there's too many people getting the market or whatever, because really what happens is that's only going to feed on you and your soul. And then, like, I love what Daniel said. It's what are we trying to do? What's our purpose? Are we trying to make happiness for these families that we're putting up lights, or we're just worried about thrashing other people? So I love that, Daniel. And the last thing I would say is I really appreciate Jason getting me out of my comfort zone. I've never done these kind of things ever, honestly, and I kind of had a goal for me to be on Jason's live. I'm more of a reserved person, and I like the one-on-ones. 1 to 3, 5 people. I'm really good at that, but doing this stuff has been really good. Thanks to Jason. So thanks for encouraging me to do this.
And how do you gauge? I'm going to answer this question real quick, and I'm going to give my last. How do you gauge whenever your market is saturated? Don't worry about your market, because Dustin is probably in the most saturated market in the country, and that's not even Salt Lake City's probably got more Christmas lights installers there than probably anywhere else in the country. And so you just got to go and be you and go get it done. And don't worry about your competition, right? Everybody's worried about everybody else. Go do what you need to do. The reason why I give you guys so much information, I want you to be successful. Because when I see people that are successful and they do half what I say, like I said, if you just do half I say, you'll become a Daniel. I've talked to Daniel probably more hours than anybody else in here. And so Daniel is one that he's taking it off, and he's going to hit $1 million this year. He keeps at it, he'll hit $1 million, right?
No, no way. There's not a chance. There's not a chance.
I know what his goal is, and he already hit it. And so that's what I'm talking about. You can do amazing things. You guys are awesome. These guys are awesome. I partnered up with Dustin because he's awesome, right? I know he has the best customer service out there by far. There is nobody else that's going to give you better customer service than with Lights at Wholesale. And that's why I partnered up with him, right? Because he's got that, I don't even know what he's got, but he's got the mentality to have amazing customer service over what? He was just talking about how he lost his tail on shipping to Hawaii, but he did it. And most people would have been like, nope, we're not doing that. Now, he tried to do that, but he did it anyway. And so when you have that type of customer service, that is amazing. And so with that, again, if you want to learn more about Christmas Lights, go to christmaslights.io. I've got in-person training. We got a training coming up in the Indianapolis warehouse. So if you need lights anywhere in the United States, you get them within 2 days. Go to christmaslights.ipt, which is the in-person training, which will be with Casey and there. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to be down in Charlotte. That class will be awesome too, because with Lindy and Dan, they are awesome. And so I like to surround myself with awesome people. And so you need to do the same thing, because, they always say that you become the people that you're around. So don't be the top person. And I'm not the top person in this group. And that's why I hang around with other people. So hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll see you all later. But everybody else, hang on.